I had to do it on the front end because I'm flying to Dallas for a Bulldog Club. Actually, what do we call that?
UGA Day.
UGA Day.
In Dallas.
Got a UGA Day in Dallas. I don't know how I could forget that. But anyway, spring is about over. We got very short practice, about an hour and a half, and then we'll move into the next phase, which is exit meetings and coaches get on the road recruiting and players, finishing up strong academically, and you just kind of getting ready for the summer months. So I'll open it up.
Coach, what did it mean for you and for Michael Bennett to see him out there running some routes the last practice and just to see him out there back with the guys?
Well, I'll be honest with you, I really didn't know he was going to do that. I wasn't mad, it just kind of caught me off guard, and there he was with his pads on and the gear of the day, dress of the day, and his helmet. And of course, he had a green jersey on, but he was running routes. He looked a whole lot different than the rest of the guys. He was running a pretty good clip. It wasn't like he was off to the side running a route at 3/4 speed. He looked like he was running at full speed and came out of his break and made some nice catches. And, I was a little, I was like, man, I hope he's okay type of thing, but he looked great. I think it really made him feel good, made me feel good.
Mark, I know there was a lot of talk about the early enrollees before spring practice started, but looking at your defense, where you have Matthews and Mays and Wilkerson and guys like that, the value of them being out there now.
He's very big. I don't know what kind of spring we'd have had without all 12 of them. There's, of course, 13 here and Trammell not participating. It'd have been tough. I don't know if we'd have got to the point where we canceled the spring game, but we just needed them in there. And our number two, our number 2 linebackers were both mid-year enrollees, and of course Ryan got banged up and didn't finish. He may get some work today, but if they weren't here, we did have. Costa Avalos stepped in, did a great job, and there might have been some others we could have slipped in there, but it was just really good to have them there and get the work and get some of that special teams work too. Some of the drill work we do in the special teams in the spring gives the players a good understanding of what we're trying to get done, but also allows our coaches to evaluate them to see what kind of special teamers they might be as well. So it's very important they were here. I'm glad they made it.
You've had some big freshman classes before. 2 years ago, it seemed like a lot of spring practice was waiting on the dream teamers and stuff to arrive in the summer. How different was it this time around with 13 guys here?
It was a different feel for sure. We're glad the class was broken up. We knew it was a very big class, and just by numbers, it's more guys to monitor, it's more guys to manage, more guys to educate. It's more guys that you want to indoctrinate to the culture of your team and your program. So by having 13 of them here and having them go through it, now they don't have to go through that again. They don't have to go through the orientation of it again. And now there's only around 20 guys that have to go through it instead of 33. So I think it being broken up was good for us just as far as managing the class in general. And obviously the guys that are here are getting credits towards graduation and learning the system, so that's been positive.
Coach Wilson and you both kind of said that to expect a little more, I guess, rotation on D-line this year, maybe a few more guys getting into games. Was there a reason as you look back why you felt like y'all didn't do maybe as much of that last year as you may would have wanted?
Well, we did to a certain degree, but towards the end of the year when Avery went down, it wasn't like we just threw another guy into the rotation, so to speak. We were rotating a good bit, but especially when Avery went down, there may have been another guy that might have been banged up somewhere along the way. But we just, at the end, probably didn't have enough guys that we felt comfortable putting in there. and we got a feeling that we're gonna have a higher comfort level with more guys than we had a year ago, basically.
Coach, you talked about the next step, and one of those next things coming up is the draft. Do you make time out of your now night to watch the draft? Do you get nervous, excited? What will you be doing draft night?
Well, I'll be watching it. And I don't know if I'll just sit glued to the TV. You can come back about every 15, 20 minutes or whatever and see what happened next. But I'll be watching it.
Have you talked to Jarvis? Whether he's, because it doesn't look like he's going to New York.
The latest that I have not, I asked him early on, and he wasn't sure whether he was going or not. And so it was kind of a short conversation about it. He just said he wasn't sure what he was going to do. And then someone, I don't know if it was from SID or maybe it was Brad Hutcherson, our director of football operations, or somebody told me that it didn't look like he was going to be going. So I didn't call him and ask him what was up. I didn't really worry too much about it.
Him not going maybe keep you from going up there. Then if he doesn't go up to New York, you get time.
I'm not going to go.
Not going to go.
Right.
We all kind of had our guesses as to what positions would be the most intriguing coming in, and I'm sure you did too. Now that you're through spring, I mean, which ones do you think are still the most wide open as you get into summer and August?
Well, I think all the D-line positions, really. I think we're going to have, like we've been talking about, a lot of guys playing, but I'm not sure who's going to start. I think that's up for grabs. I think just about every one of those positions are up for grabs as far as D-line. I'm not convinced that we're, settled on exactly who's going to play who's going to play the middle linebacker positions for us. I'm not 100% certain who's going to start in the perimeter. Other than I know, I could safely say that Swan's going to be one of them. The rest of them, there's some guys that have earned the right to be number one at the end of spring, but we got to see if that's where they end up in the fall. There's going to be more competition coming in, and so we'll see there. I guess you could say just about. Jordan Jenkins is. I would say he's the closest one to saying he's going to be a starter on the outside linebacker position, but everybody else, all that's up for grabs too, I think. O-line, David Andrews is probably going to be the center. The rest of them, I think there's some other guys that we think will start, but will they start at guard, tackle? I don't know. If a guy like Ward wins a job, then it kind of changes the dynamic of what's going to happen at the tackle position. Is one of those tackles going to become a guard? That could affect what happens at guard. So I think everybody's jobs, the starting jobs are, up for grabs there. I think that's at least, I think we know who the starting quarterback is and starting tailback is. And tight ends, I think Artie and Jay will play. I think Ty is making up some ground, but I couldn't say for sure who's going to start the first game in tight end either. So there's a lot of competition right now.
Yeah. Does that bother you that it's the end of spring you don't know, or is that a good thing?
No, I think it's really good. I think that if you're working out this summer thinking you got something nailed down, you better be sure. You better recheck your thinking, because we're going to have 29 practices in the fall and probably about at least 20 of them before we decide, until we nail down who's going to start across the board. So it's going to be a lot of competition.
Does the O-line, the uncertainty there, is that keeping you up at night, or is it just something that?
Well, because I guess some of my comments or Coach Friend's comments or whoever's comments is out there, and a couple of people I got on the radio and they were asking me questions about the question questions at the offensive line and all that. And I said, well, it's not so much a question of do we have enough guys that can play the positions, more of a question of where's everybody gonna line up. I mean, the entire line is back from last year. We did well on offense. We broke a bunch of school records, and so I'm not disappointed in the offensive line, but I see, you know, some guys that weren't starters or players last year starting to get better, starting to get healthier, starting to try to show coach they deserve to play, or maybe they deserve to start. So I think the competition of the guys that were a little bit farther behind are catching up, or a guy that maybe is young, a guy like Pike, you know, that you know, he was a rookie, being redshirted, but now he's not a redshirt anymore, and he's learned a lot more, and he's competing better. And Watt Stanzler's competing better. Austin Long was competing better. I think that's what's happening is the guys that were behind are catching up, and they're trying to, you know, earn that playing time.
As a coach, that's where you'd like to be though, right? I mean, as
Yeah.
opposed to wondering who's gonna.
That's right. No, I mean, a year ago we were hoping we could get 5 to line up. We were kind of waiting on Theus to show up, thinking he'd be one of the 5, and he ended up being one of the 5. But you know, now we're more which 5 is going to be rather than are we going to have it. You know, can we somehow find 5 guys who can play? Now we're thinking we've got, you know, 6, 7, 8, maybe 9 guys that can play. And now who's gonna win the job?
Mark, you guys went like 6 weeks or whatever after Rodney left in terms of recruiting down the stretch. Now that you guys are heading into the spring period, is it kind of just pick up where you left off, or have you rejiggered some of the responsibilities and how your operation works?
Well, we, you know, Daryl is doing all the internal stuff, and really a lot of it's each coach. Recruiting is not rocket science. You know, each coach has got an area that he's going to go recruit. He's going to have he's going to spend some time in his area. And if a running backs coach who has a certain area finds a D lineman who he likes, he's going to make sure that D lineman gets to see him before the end of the spring. You know, we'll cross-reference throughout, and we'll make sure we're allowed 2 evaluations during the spring, and we'll make sure we get not only the recruiting coach but the position coach to be able to, you know, evaluate these guys, and then we're gonna make our offers, and we're gonna go full speed. So, I mean, I think we're well equipped to get that done.
This is really one of the most important times of year as far as as far as recruiting goes. Isn't it? You talked about the evaluations. And
It's
really
big. It's a big part of it to go see guys in person. But really, it's 365 now. I mean, the recruiting hardly ever stops. There's guys that are constantly coming on your campus, and you're constantly watching film and evaluating them and trying to make a determination on them. But it's the time that we enjoy the most. That if we had our way, I'd say we as coaches in general, I think would all agree that we would love to slow down the process of these massive offers until you get to see some of these guys in person. You get to watch them practice in the spring or do something, whether it's a spring sport or whatever that high school coach might have planned. And then also in camp, you know, you get these guys to come to your camp. And you get, let's say you want to sign 1 tight end, 2 tight ends, whatever it is. And if you could get, you know, 4 or 5 of the ones that you think are the best all at the camp at the same time, and you get to see them all work together, and you'd have a much better chance of deciding which one you like the best, you know, if you can get them all there at the same time. You know, so that's what we prefer, but it just doesn't happen it doesn't happen that way.
You mentioned getting all these offers are going out. Wouldn't early signing period for football kind of cut down on that?
No, I think if you had an early signing period, you'd have maybe even earlier offers. But I mean, I think an early signing period could solve some issues as far as, you know, guys committing, decommitting, or if there's a guy that just knows he wants to be at your school, you know, he can knock it out and get it over with and save himself, you know, some of the time and save, you know, us as a staff not having to go back every single week if the guy's already, you know, signed and all that type of thing. I'm not saying I'm an advocate of doing it. You know, we as an SEC group head coaches, I don't know if you remember what we said about it, but we're for an early signing date if there was no official visits. If a kid says, I know I wanna go to Georgia, that's it. I'm gonna sign at Georgia, and then after I sign, I can take an official visit to Georgia. And the reason why we said that is because we do wanna coach our teams in season. We don't wanna be having these massive, official visits all throughout the season and spend as much time recruiting, and having official visits during the time we're supposed to be coaching our players and preparing for the next game. It's one, you know, the game can end, and you think, well, now that the game's over, you can recruit, but the reality is, you know, that Sunday, and even sometimes that Saturday night, you're reviewing that film of the game you just played, and you're trying to prepare for the next one. And every time you have a bunch of official visits, you're trying to manage, trying to get the recruiting done, but also trying to prepare for the next game. So we really would just like to coach our guys as much as possible in season. And so by having an early signing date where no one took official visits, we would at least keep the season, try to protect the season.
Coach, is spring just an optimistic time? Do you remember a time as a coach where you walked away from a spring and thought, man, that didn't go how I wanted it to go? That was not.
I wouldn't say it publicly, you know, but there's been times I just was shaking my head and I'd have to be concerned. This is a year in particular that just a lot of things we've just been talking about. We still don't know for sure who's going to play, who's going to start. We have a good idea of who's, you know, getting closer to being ready to play. But as far as now and down starting positions, I can't think of a year where I've had more uncertainty as far as who's going to start. But I feel like we've got the right ingredients. I feel like we've got the right, the right talent base. It's just a matter of who's going to win it, and then are they going to be mature enough to play well enough, early enough, especially with how the season begins.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, respectively, offense and defense, are they each about where you expected, hoped to be at the end of spring?
I think it was healthy for the offense not to just have their way with the defense the whole time. I think the offense performed well, most of the spring, but it wasn't like it was some kind of a mismatch. And I think that I'm hoping that the offense understands that last year was last year, and you can't say, well, we were really good last year, we don't lose many guys, so therefore we're going to be great this year. That's not always the case. You have to earn it every year. And is the offensive line as hungry this year as they were a year ago? I don't know. We're trying to create that hunger by letting them know you got to earn it. You got to earn it again. And defensively, we see really good signs, but we're not a solid, cohesive unit yet because we're not exactly sure again who's going to be our starters and who's going to play. We got guys coming in that we think can challenge for some playing time too. So it's going to be kind of fluid here for a little while, even during camp.
Do you feel confident though? I mean, leaving today, those guys going into these summer workouts and then coming back for fall camp, they'll have that same intensity you guys mentioned they had during those summer workouts?
I think we'll have intensity. I think we've got a bunch of guys that are going to work hard and are going to try to earn jobs and that want to play fast and but until we start playing another team, I don't know how good we are. I really don't know. It's hard to tell. When you go against each other, it's just hard to tell.
It's been a pretty quiet year off the field. Do you attribute that to just leadership and everyone buying in, or luck, or?
I don't have an answer. I don't know the answer to that. I've enjoyed that to this point, but I'm not going to start bragging about anything here.
Sure.
I got another recruiting question.
Mm-hmm.
It's obviously
hard to say, like you said, but, you can't put a number on it. I wouldn't say he was going to be one of the smaller. It'd be, I think it's gonna, my guess is it'll get in the 20 range, somewhere
You think
there. We'll see, I mean, you don't know, but the way history has shown, it usually does get
Yeah.
out there.
Does that, supposing that it might be a little small, does that change, last year being the biggest you've signed, do you have to be a little more careful?
Yeah, it changes your pace. Changes your pace. You know you gotta sign, or you're shooting to sign 10 for mid-year, you hope, and a total of 35 possibles, then you can be more aggressive with your offers, and knowing that you're gonna try to sign a class that big, you'll probably make more offers faster. If you have a smaller class, and it will be a smaller class than a year ago, then you do have to be a little bit more deliberate and methodical, because if you just sling them out fast and everybody says they're in, and then you're done recruiting before it gets started, then you gotta make sure you're, offering the right guys.
Coach, I wanted to ask you about Marlon Brown. He's in kind of a unique situation right now before the draft. Have you talked to him and kind of got an idea how he's...
I see him quite often. He's been rehabbing, and just working out more than rehabbing, really. And I've been in there, doing some rehab for my hip, and so I see him quite often, and he's just a real upbeat guy. He's been working hard. He's hoping to get drafted. If he doesn't, I think he's gonna, definitely get on a team, and I think he'll make it. But my guess, he's gonna be a draft pick, even though he got injured. I think the film will show that he's an outstanding football player, and just his size and his height, his just the kind of condition he's in. If you meet him and you spend time talking ball with him, he's a sharp kid. I think he's going to get drafted.
Time for one more?
All right, you guys, I don't know when we'll see you again. It'll be a while. Wish you the best.